Chicago PD Season 12 finale teases Reid's replacement villain for Season 13, and they might be more dangerous. Chicago PD Season 12, Episode 22, titled Vows, teases a new villain who may be more dangerous to Voit than Reid. Reid was Voit's main antagonist throughout Chicago PD Season 12. He was the deputy chief of the Chicago Police Department, which gave him the power to interfere with how Voit operated the intelligence unit. Initially, the power struggle between Voit and Reid involved espionage, both spying on the other, but it became personal when Reid had Torres arrested and Burgess suspended for the Gloria Perez controversy. In Vows, the fight between Voit and Reid comes to a head. Voit shuts Chapman out after Torres' arrest, even though she's his girlfriend as well as his partner in taking Reid down, as he plans to break the law to get the Reid problem resolved. Chicago PD's season finale ends with Reid's murder and Chapman's realization that Voit orchestrated it, which doesn't bode well for their relationship. It also puts Voit at significant legal risk, as Chapman is the assistant state's attorney. Chapman and Voigt's falling out revolves around the way Voit chooses to handle his conflict with Reid. Before Reid exerted his power to disband the intelligence unit, Chapman and Voit were working together to topple him legally. They had begun gathering evidence that Reid was associated with Jesus Otero and other known gang leaders. However, Voit realized this methodical approach would not protect him and his officers once Reid made his move. Thus, he shut Chapman out and worked on orchestrating Reid's murder, using Otero's son, Rennie, to fire the fatal shot in revenge for Reid killing his father. Chapman realized quickly that Voit was behind the murder, though Voit denied it, and she couldn't prove it. However, this conflict goes far beyond this one incident. Chapman believes Voit has changed and no longer uses violence or questionable activities to get justice. Thus, she's disappointed and frustrated by what she sees as out-of-character behavior and no longer wants to date Voit after he shuts her out and uses street justice to take care of Reid. Chapman is heartbroken that Voit shut her out and went rogue instead of continuing to work with her to neutralize Reid legally. This type of disappointment often leads characters to engage in desperate acts, either to seek revenge or to restore things the way they were before the rupture. Chapman may use her power as an assistant state attorney to build the type of case against Voit she was hoping he would help her to build against Reid. She is already suspicious that Voit had a hand in Reid's death, so the next step is to prove it. Even if Chapman rises above her personal pain, she likely will take this step. As an assistant state attorney, she cannot afford to be involved in a legal scandal. Even if Chapman doesn't want to prosecute Voit, she may have no choice because of her job requirements. As dangerous as Reid was, he had several weaknesses that Chapman didn't. He tipped his hand early on when he transferred Burgess back to intelligence after she passed the exam to become a detective. This power move made it clear he was trying to put Burgess in his debt so he could use her against Voit, so Voit could easily move to counteract his plans. Reid's ties to gang members were also a liability that Voit could exploit if need be. Conversely, Chapman is well known for her integrity and won't necessarily make her plans obvious. Voigt's former relationship with Chapman could become his Achilles heel in Chicago PD Season 13. Their relationship was intimate enough that Chapman knows some of Voigt's secrets and many of his psychological weaknesses. Chapman's potential villainy makes for a compelling arc in Chicago PD that doesn't have as clear an outcome as Voigt's conflict with Reid. Chicago streets have never been quiet, but the recent finale of Chicago PD left fans with more than sirens ringing in their ears. After months of intense cases, betrayals, and emotional upheaval, the intelligence unit may have finally turned the page on one of their most relentless adversaries, Special Agent Reid. But just when viewers thought they could breathe a sigh of relief, the show dropped a final scene that suggests Reid's exit may only pave the way for someone even worse. And yes, it might be much worse. The final minutes of the finale gave fans a slow-burning shock. As Voit stood outside the station, cigarette in hand, watching the city lights flicker beyond the fog, the camera cut to a dark SUV idling nearby. Inside, a shadowed figure scrolled through a dossier filled with photos of Voit, Halstead, Atwater, and Burgess. A smirk curled on their lips. No dialogue, no name, just a flicker of menace. And then the SUV drove off. Whoever this person is, they're not just watching, they're planning. The fall of Reid. For most of the season, Reid was a looming presence in the intelligence unit's operations. He wasn't a typical villain, not a gang leader, not a corrupt politician, not even a street-level dealer. Reid was from the inside. A by-the-book Fed with a penchant for manipulation. His desire to take down Voit seemed more personal than procedural. His crusade against the intelligence unit's morally gray methods nearly dismantled the team and cost lives. But Reid's obsessive quest to make Voit pay for his past mistakes ultimately led to his downfall. As the finale revealed, Reid had crossed several lines himself, secretly orchestrating operations that endangered informants and manipulating evidence to frame Voit in a ratio case. His hypocrisy was his undoing, and the intelligence unit was finally able to expose him. Still, the void he leaves may not be a relief. It might be an invitation. Enter the shadow. The final tease doesn't give us a name, but the hints are chilling. Whoever is in that SUV isn't just another criminal. They're methodical, intelligent, and already 10 steps ahead. Reid may have acted with self-righteousness, but this new adversary seems colder, less concerned with the rules, more focused on chaos. Fans are already theorizing. Could it be a former associate of Reid's, someone who watched from the sidelines while the agent unraveled? A relative of someone caught in the crossfire of the intelligence unit's war on crime. Or, most dangerously, someone from Voight's own past. Theories aside, one thing is clear. This new villain operates in shadows, understands surveillance, and sees the team not just as enemies, but as prey. A villain Voit can't intimidate. Voit has always ruled with a clenched fist. His bark and bite are legendary, and few have dared stand toe-to-toe with him, and live to tell the tale. But this new villain might not be the kind who can be stared down in an interrogation room. What makes them so dangerous is not just potential violence, it's foresight, patience, psychological warfare. Unlike Reid, who needed to operate within the limits of his badge, this new player seems to have no such constraints. That means they could hit the intelligence unit from angles the team isn't used to. Finances, families, public perception. We've seen Voit handle bullets. But can he handle a ghost? Personal stakes are rising. The finale didn't just introduce a new villain. It reminded viewers of how much the team has to lose. Burgess and Ruzek finally appeared to find balance in their co-parenting and partnership. Atwater's mentorship of young recruits is gaining traction. Torres, still the newest member, is building a reputation and trust in a city that often eats young cops alive. This looming threat puts all of that at risk. The SUV figure has files, timelines, and a reason to watch. If they go after loved ones, manipulate public trust, or exploit the team's weaknesses, the intelligence unit might find themselves in uncharted territory, hunted instead of hunting. A return to old-school Voit. The finale teases a return to the early roots of Chicago PD, where Voit operated more like an urban outlaw than a commander. If this new villain starts striking from the shadows, fans might see Voit shed the measured restraint he's tried to adopt over the past few seasons. This could be personal, ruthless, violent. And that's exactly what this villain might want. What better way to destroy Voit than to make him destroy himself?